Throughout Eddie Murray's 21-season career, he defined consistency. No matter his age, 25 home run seasons and solid defense was a given, ending with one of the best careers a player's ever had. Despite this, many unusual factors prevented him from taking home an MVP. So let's look at Murray's career and why, despite being a first ballot Hall of Famer, he may still be underrated.
Totally sports-esque. Major League.
Eddie Murray was born in 1956 in Los Angeles as the 8th child of 12, and this came to his benefit, as he said he didn't have to go far to play a pickup game. And also to his benefit, his older brothers would not go easy on him and let him win, something that he would be thankful for in the long run. In his senior year of high school, he hit .500 at Locke High School in LA, playing alongside another future first ballot Hall of Famer in Ozzie Smith. He was drafted by the Baltimore Orioles in the 3rd round of the 1973 draft and quickly proved what he could be. At the age of 17, while playing in the Appalachian League, he had 11 home runs in 50 games with a .495 slugging percentage and an .849 OPS. And over the next 3 years, he would move up and down levels of the Orioles system as most do, hitting .283 with 63 home runs and an .842 OPS while playing with 4 different teams. And with this, he was ready to make his debut in the year of 1977. The Orioles were already one of the best teams in the league before Murray came up. Led by Earl Weaver, they finished 2nd or 1st in the AL East every year from 1968 to 1976, except for 72 when they finished 3rd. And things continued with Murray. In his rookie season, he hit 27 home runs while hitting .283 with an .803 OPS in 160 games. This would be the only year he would strike out 100 times, and this was good enough to win Rookie of the Year in a close vote over Mitchell Page. And Murray helped the Orioles win 97 games that year, but it wasn't good enough to win the AL East over the Yankees. His next season would be very similar, as he again hit 27 home runs while raising his average 2 points and his OPS 33 points, as he made the All-Star team and received MVP votes for the first time, as the Orioles had another 90-win season, but again, that wasn't enough. And just in his first 3 seasons, you can see the consistency, as 1979 was another similar season that was just a little better in a few categories except home runs, as he began to cut down on his strikeouts. He again received MVP votes, and after 2 straight years of almost, the Orioles were going to the playoffs after winning 102 games with the help of Cy Young winner Mike Flanagan. In the ALCS, Murray went 5 for 12 with a home run and 5 RBIs, as the Orioles were able to beat the Angels 3-1 to advance to the World Series for a 1971 rematch with the Pirates. And in the World Series, Murray struggled, going 4 for 26 with a home run, as the Orioles lost in 7 games to the Pirates, just like they did in 1971. And as the decade changed, Murray continued to consistently get better. 1980 saw Murray make the All-Star team again, as for the first time in his career, he would hit over 30 home runs while driving in over 100 runners with a 300 average. Exactly a 300 average. An incredible year that helped the Orioles win 100 games and once again not make the playoffs. And also saw him finish 6th in MVP voting in a year where George Brett hit 390 and saw a relief pitcher finish ahead of him, a sign of things to come. 1981 was a strange year all around, in a split season as a result of the players' strike. But in 99 games, Murray led the league in home runs and RBIs at 22 and 78. A big what-if on his career, as he was on pace to hit a career high in home runs, and who knows how things would have turned out in a full season, as he ended up finishing 5th in MVP voting, as Raleigh Fingers took home MVP. 1982 would be a big year for Murray and the Orioles. For Baltimore, the biggest part was Cal Ripken Jr. playing his first full season, in which he would win Rookie of the Year and form a close bond with Murray, even saying that Murray was responsible for him developing his work ethic. And as for Murray, he had his best season yet, as he once again hit over 30 home runs, drove in over 100 runners, and hit over 300, as he set a career high in OPS at 940, while compiling a 5.2 WAR. In many years, that would be good enough for MVP. But Robin Yount had an insane year, compiling a 10.6 WAR, and the Brewers won the American League, which also helped his case. And that brought things to 1983, the most memorable year for him in the Orioles. As he often does, steady Eddie Murray took his previous season, hit copy-paste, and changed a few things so it doesn't look like plagiarism, with his 3rd straight 30 home run, 100 RBI, 300 average season, not including 1981, with an even higher WAR and a slightly worse OPS. And once again, he finished 2nd in MVP voting, and the one who took the award from him was his friend and teammate Cal Ripken Jr. Both put up very similar seasons, and arguments could be made for both, which is why the vote was so close. But ultimately, Ripken took it home, as Murray won a Gold Glove for the 2nd year in a row, and the Silver Slugger for the first time. And when you have the top 2 MVP candidates, it goes a long way in the Orioles making the playoffs for the first time since 1979. They would beat the White Sox in 4 games in the ALCS, as Murray hit .267 with a home run. Then the team got the chance to redeem themselves after 1979, and they did. Murray hit 2 home runs as the Orioles beat the Phillies in 5 to win what they were so close to so many times since 1970. The Orioles would regress after the season, but Murray would not, as 1984 was his best overall season. Taking after his teammate who took the MVP from him, Murray played every game that season, and while he finished 1 home run shy of 30, he still drove in 110 runners with a .306 average. And what's the most remarkable about this season is that he led the league in walks by drawing 4 balls 107 times, with 25 of those being intentional, 36 more than the 71 he averaged in his career. And because of this, he led the league in on-base percentage at .410. He also set a career high in WAR at 7.1 and led the league in OPS plus and base out wins and runs added. And was this enough to win MVP? Well, no. This time he finished 4th, behind 2 relief pitchers and someone he bested in WAR by 1.5 points. In the years before, it's hard to say if Murray was actually robbed, but this year is his best case. I talked more about relief pitchers winning MVP in this time more in a previous video, and it was a strange time for MVP voting, as relievers were a new thing, and team success was a huge factor. And even on the team, Murray might not even have been the best, as Cal Ripken had a 10 WAR and got 1 vote, a very strange vote that Murray was often a part of. He would keep on doing what he does in 1985, which was probably his worst full year of the decade so far, which is saying a lot. He just missed out on hitting 300, and naturally, his OPS dropped after not being walked 107 times. He will make the All-Star team for the 6th time, and received MVP votes for the 8th straight year, as the Orioles' 83 wins were their least in 12 years. He played 3 more seasons for the Orioles, in which he played 458 games and hit 75 home runs, while hitting .287 with an .840 OPS. 1986 would be his last All-Star season as an Oriole, and also where things began to turn sour with the front office. It started in spring training when he accused the team of pressuring him to return prematurely from an ankle injury, and in August of that year, he would request a trade after owner Edward Williams questioned his offseason work, his defense, and his lack of extra base hits, essentially calling him lazy, a comment that made no sense. Eddie also developed issues with the media for false statements that led to unfair treatment, and in December of 1988, he was traded to the Dodgers for 3 players, something Baltimore fans considered one of the lowest moments in the franchise's history. The Orioles were coming off a 107-loss season, while the Dodgers were coming off a World Series title, so this was a new start for Murray. His first season, however, was not good, as he had a career low in average and OPS, but the following season would be historic, and pretty weird. He had 26 home runs and drove in 95 runners with a .934 OPS, and most notable was his career-high .330 average. And if there's any way to show how unlucky Murray was in regards to season awards, then it's seen here. Murray's .330 average was the highest in the league, but Willie McGee was traded from the Cardinals to the A's at the end of August that year, and at that time, he was hitting .335. So McGee ended up winning the NL batting title instead of Murray. A very unfortunate outcome that would only add to his accolades as he finished 5th in MVP voting. He would play 1 more season for the Dodgers, where he would make the All-Star team for the 8th and final time. He played 2 seasons for the Mets, hitting 43 home runs and driving in 193 runners in his age 36 and 37 seasons. Then after that, he would sign with the Cleveland Indians right as they were emerging as contenders. He once again was affected by a strike, as he had 17 home runs and 76 RBIs at the time the season abruptly came to an end. And the main thing is that it delayed the inevitable, as when baseball returned in late April of '95, Murray would pick up his 3,000th hit to become the 20th member of the club. He would proceed to hit .323 that season with 21 home runs and 82 RBIs in the 3rd shortened season he was a part of, and his veteran presence was huge in their playoff run. He hit .385 in their 3-game sweep of the Red Sox. He struggled in the ALCS, but they still beat the Mariners in 6 for Murray's 3rd World Series appearance. He again struggled in the World Series, but he was huge when needed. Down 2-0, Murray hit a walk-off single in the 11th in Game 3 to keep Cleveland's hopes alive. He would actually only get 1 more hit in the series, that being a home run, as the Braves won the series in 6. In his age 40 season, he played half with Cleveland before being traded back to Baltimore in July. And exactly 1 year after Cal Ripken would break Lou Gehrig's consecutive game streak, Eddie Murray would hit his 500th home run, the first to do it since Mike Schmidt in 1987, the longest gap since 1960. And this made him the 3rd to ever hit 500 home runs and record 3,000 hits after Willie Mays and Hank Aaron, with Rafael Palmeiro, Alex Rodriguez, Albert Pujols, and Miguel Cabrera doing so after. He would end his age 40 season with 22 home runs, 79 RBIs, and a .743 OPS, making him consistent until the end. He would help the Orioles beat the team he was just on in the 1996 ALDS, though they would lose in the ALCS. Then he would play one more season in 1997, signing with the Angels, playing 55 games with them, and 9 in Albuquerque. He was released by the Angels and played 9 games with the Dodgers and 2 in the minors, with his last game coming on September 20th. He would be inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2003, receiving 85.3% of the vote in his first ballot. Eddie Murray finished his career with 504 home runs, the second most for a switch hitter, 1,917 RBIs, 3,255 hits, an average of 287, an OPS of 836, and a WAR of 68.7. As already mentioned, he was one of just 3 to record 500 home runs and 3,000 hits at the time he did so, and that alone shows how incredible his career was. But a few records also show how strange his career was. For example, he has the most sacrificed flies in his career at 128, one more than Cal Ripken, who was second, but not once did he lead the league in sac flies. He's played the most games at first base, and is one of only 9 players to play more games than his teammate Cal Ripken Jr. As already mentioned, he is the only one to lead the league in average, and not win the batting title. The only time he led the league in home runs was the shortened 1981 season, and his career high was just 33, the lowest of any member of the 500 home run club. In fact, every member of the 400 home run club hit at least 34 home runs in a season. He also recorded over 3,200 hits without ever being in the top 5 in a season. He's 11th all-time in RBIs, despite only finishing the top 3 twice. He also has the most RBIs with the bases loaded, while hitting .399 with the bases loaded. And he's one of just 6 players to finish top 5 in MVP voting in 5 straight seasons. Those other 5 combined for 19 MVPs. Murray didn't win 1. But with this, it feels as if Eddie Murray is underrated. The obvious rebuttal to this is, how could a first ballot Hall of Famer be underrated? Well, I think the vote itself kinda shows it. Of the 60 first ballot Hall of Famers, 41 received a higher percentage than Murray did in his first ballot. That's not to say Murray's better than all those players, but considering he marked 2 of the few milestone boxes that have guaranteed Hall of Fame entrance, it's surprising he didn't get more votes. But then again, the Hall of Fame voters have been shown to make no sense. There really isn't a concrete reason why Eddie Murray is underrated, it just kinda feels that way. And I think his season-by-season numbers are a huge reason for that. Most of the great players have their peak years where they rack up a majority of their numbers before having a drop-off because of age and injuries, something almost every player goes through. But Murray was consistently great throughout his entire career. A 25 home run, 100 RBI season could be a career year for a number of players. Murray did that 10 times, even doing so in his age 37 season. Basically, without paying attention, Murray's numbers would sneak up on you. And considering not one of these seasons resulted in Murray taking home an MVP, then it's even easier for him to sneak up on you. And it seems as if there wasn't enough time to appreciate what he did. In the first 93 seasons of MLB in the World Series era, there were just 2 players who hit 500 home runs and recorded 3,000 hits. In the 25 seasons after Murray accomplished the feat, 4 other players accomplished it as well, more than the first 102 seasons. And there was a little bit of power surge after Murray retired. When he hit his 500th home run in 1996, he was the 15th to do so. 13 have joined him since. Basically saying, the overwhelming amount of home run hitters coming after Murray could have overshadowed all he did. A little bit of bad timing in this sense, and in the sense that once Cal Ripken Jr. came up, he took the team spotlight and an MVP from him, though he didn't take his sideburns. He also wasn't the most famous guy named Eddie with the last name that starts with Murr of his time. He was second behind Eddie Murphy, but ahead of Eddie Murray, the kicker. Either way, Eddie Murray had an insanely consistent career, up there with the legs of Hank Aaron. It was a weird one in the sense of his season totals and awards, but still one of the best, along with the best facial hair since the 1800s.